Hello, African sports fanatics. Welcome to another episode of the Safari Soccer Show. I'm your host, Yvonne Etta. Today, I'm hosting the FAS president. Uh, Welcome to my show, sir. And please introduce. I know most of people know you, from Zambia, most of them know you, but then in other countries like from my country, Kenya, and other African countries might not know you. So please just reintroduce yourself to my viewers and tell us if you have played soccer before.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Andrew Kamanga. I'm currently the president of the Zambia Football Association. I've been since 2016. I got re-elected this year on the 27th of February. In terms of my interest in football, it goes back maybe over 45 years, because I was born and bred in a town called Kabwe, where there was a big club called Cup Warriors. So that's the club I started supporting as early as 4 years old. And along the way, when I got interested in club administration, I was drafted in as a committee member, and I became the chairman of the club. Eventually found myself in the FA as president. But of course, I've had an interest and passion for football. I played football when I was much younger, not professionally, but of course, the highest I think I achieved was during the time I was in university, because I used to play for the university team, and I would compete with the other universities within the region. So that's where my footballing career, if you want to call it that, started and ended. But of course, my passion is administration, and it's all because I trained as a chartered accountant. I also have a master's in energy, environment, and technology. So it's a little bit of a mouthful, but I'm also involved in business. I run a financial advisory firm. I also run a power distribution company. So aside from my professional career, I'm very much in football. On the football side, in CAF, I sit in the organizing committee for CHAN. I'm also an executive member of the COSAFA. I also sit in the FIFA Audit and Compliance Committee. The only one from CAF. So that sort of sums up what I do football-wise. But of course, we can focus on what we are doing with the Zambian game.
Yeah, okay, we can focus on the Zambian game. But then let me just take you back a little bit, sir. At your time at Cup Warriors, before you were elected as the first president in 2016, just please tell us a brief history, how it was at your time in Cup Warriors.
Yeah, I think at the time I was in the executive, because I was with Cup Warriors for over 6 years. But of course, like any other Zambian club, our challenges were quite severe when it comes to financial issues. So we did have at the time 2 sponsors, Zambia Railways, which is the railway company, and Railway Systems, who were running the concession or running the railways on the concession. So they used to give us 500 million that time, which is equivalent to 50,000 in today's currency. But of course, it was never enough. And I think that has always been the case with all the other clubs. And I think this is why, having come from that background, I have an appreciation of what clubs go through to be able to run football in the country. So this is why, if you look at our first task when we came into the executive, was to try and support the clubs directly, especially those in the Super League I think at the time in 2016, clubs were getting as low as 7,000 kwacha. But we called a meeting with all the Super League teams, and we were able to increase the amount to a 200,000 across the board for all teams, simply because the principle is that you can't have a champion if they are not helped by the others to be the champion. So we came up with this concept that each team that is participating should be guaranteed a minimum amount, regardless of which position they finish on the league. So this is where we said everyone is going to get 200,000. And then the champion will get an additional amount for being a champion, the same with the second and third. But everyone else remains with the participation fee, which goes a long way in supporting their activities. So I think this is where we've done quite a lot. Even this week, we signed a new contract with MTN. The same 200,000 I was talking about has been doubled to 400,000. Of course, they will get a little bit more from the broadcasting sponsorship, which is handled by SuperSport. So we are quite keen to invest in the Super League, and hopefully we can divorce it from FAS and allow the league to run independently if it's able to support itself. And then our focus as FAS is to now look at the development side of the game. This is where we want to equally invest in the provincial leagues, so that those teams from the provinces are able to compete and go into the commercial leagues. So there's that balance that we always strive to strike between the commercially active league as well as the development leagues. So the development leagues, we are funding them purely as an investment. And then the commercial side, we hope one day soon. We've already done the constitutional amendment, which has seen the creation of the Zambia Premier League, which is now going to have the MTN League, and the league below it is also a sponsored league. It's a Eden League. It's also on TV, on the national broadcaster. So our concept is the leagues that are commercially viable, they've got a sponsor and a broadcast partner. We've also done the same this year. For the first time, we've introduced a women's Super League. We hope that at some point we can get sponsorship for it and also get it on TV. Then we'll be able to transfer it to the Zambia Premier League. So in a nutshell, that sort of summarizes what we are doing.
Okay, Mr. President, let me just take you back before you officially became the first president. Let's talk about your first attempt in the top seat in 2010, which I believed involved a bit of chaos. Would you mind taking us through this? Because I think most people, maybe if you can recall, if you can take us through it, most of the viewers may not know what transpired in your first attempt to the top seat.
Well, I think it wasn't even a case of chaos, because unfortunately, depending on who you talk to, because as you know, football is a rule-based game. So you have to follow the rules to the letter. And I think my recollection from 2009, we did have a few challenges with the FA at the time. I think there were issues which we were not happy with as clubs. And obviously, if you read the constitution, the executive committee is accountable to the FAS Council, which is the collection of all the membership. And I think at that point, we felt that the executive was not serving the interest of the football family. And we had two things happening. There were resignations within the executive, which obviously created a constitutional crisis.
Yeah.
On the other side, we were also not happy. Again, the same issues I'm talking about, transparency, accountability. We didn't know, for instance, how much funds was getting from the sponsors, whether it was SuperSport or MTN at the time. So everything seemed to have been in a black box. And whoever attempted to ask even genuine questions, you were labeled anti-establishment. So unfortunately, it got to a point where I think as members, we had been pushed against the wall and we needed to push back. And in the process, there was now a divide between the executive and the group which was championing for change. And that culminated in a meeting in FIFA in 2010, December. And at that meeting, we agreed, of course, FIFA recognized the executive and said, look, if you've got any issues, you may as well table a vote of no confidence in the executive at the AGM, which was due in like 3 months. But sadly, all efforts to try and have that process followed fell through. And the vote of no confidence was not tabled. It was withdrawn at the last minute. And of course, ourselves as the party which we're pushing for the change, we felt that maybe we should create our own league. So there was always that fight. But eventually, we allowed the executive to continue because elections were coming up in 2012. So in 2012, fortunately, the executive managed to win the Africa Cup. And we all agreed and said, fine, let's allow them more time. And in fact, for me, I more or less, I didn't stand in 2012. I pulled out of those elections and I went back to my club. And in 2013, I even left Cup Warriors, but 2014, I was called back by another club, Power Dynamos, where I served as a committee member. Then 2015, I was not affiliated to any club, and I wanted to stay away. But as it were, the members felt that I could still represent them in 2016. And that's how they came and convinced me to stand in the elections in 2016, which fortunately I won because I stood on a platform of transparency, governance, and ensuring that we have respect of the laws. So that, again, maybe speaks to the historical background you wanted to hear.
Yeah. Now, Mr. President, you have told me the plans you have for the Women League and also the MTN Super League. What plans do you have for the grassroots football and the youth?
Yes, I think if you look at where we are coming from, our focus from 2016, and just to give you an idea of how we fared as a national team. Yes, we won the cup in 2012. And then there was a change of cycle the following year. Within 9 months, we had to defend the cup in 2013. And unfortunately, we lost in the first round with the same players who won the cup. And then 2015, it was the same story. We struggled to qualify. We got into the tournament and we were knocked out in the first round without even winning a game. 2016, when we came in, we were in the middle of the 2017 qualifiers. And in fact, I always laugh about this because there's a catchword now that we failed to qualify the team 3 times. but nobody has ever paid attention to the detail. And the detail is very simple. We had the elections on Saturday going into Sunday.
Yeah.
So I got elected in Sunday early morning. But that same week, we had 2 games against Congo Brazzaville on the Wednesday and Saturday, back to back. We had already played 2 games. So we needed to get maximum points from those 2 games against Congo Brazzaville. Unfortunately, we drew both of them. And this was less than a week in office. So in 2016 March, when I got into office, the same week I was in office, we were out of the 2017 AFCON because we only remained with 2 games, and we went to Guinea-Bissau and lost, and that was it. So technically, 2017, we can't say much about it, but of course, nobody will give the detail as it is, but we take full responsibility. 2019 qualifiers, yes, we failed. It was a difficult time because we didn't obviously have the technical support, and the national team had been aging. And I think this is the challenge we've had for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Because as you asked, our focus has been to invest in grassroots. And we started out in 2016 by making sure that we go into these junior tournaments and get there from a stronger point.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea, in 2016, our team at under 17 was disqualified from the COSAFA tournament. And the reason was simple: age cheating.
Okay.
So we took a decision in 2016 that it was the last time we would ever find ourselves having such an embarrassing situation.
Yeah.
And as a consequence, we now had to go back, build a new team, get boys who were under 15 into that team. The following year, in 2017, we were able to win the COSAFA under 17 with a new team. And it was the first time in the history of the country that we were winning COSAFA under 17. Same year, we had the under 20. We were hosting the Africa Cup under 20. We took the team to Spain, prepared them. They were able to win the cup. We qualified to the World Cup. They did very well, and I think they came out in the quarterfinal. Again, arising out of that under 20, we had at least 5 players going to play professional football, the likes of Enoch Mwepu and Patson Daka. So they came from that team. Now, obviously, the transition is what has been a challenge because we've been doing very well with the under 17, under 20, even at under 23, but that has not translated into a strong senior national team.
Yeah.
And of course, if you look at how you compete at an international level, everyone else has got their best players playing in the best leagues in Europe. Ours are still on the fringes of those leagues. But it's a matter which is receiving active attention. I can tell you, for instance, we've got 4 of our boys from the current under 17 likely to go into Europe, in Spain. We've also got 2 being courted by a team in Israel. We've got another 2 are likely to go into Belgium. So the buildup is coming from the bottom. But of course, at the top, the soccer fan wants to see the results today. They want the team at the Africa Cup. They don't want to hear stories about grassroots and what you are doing. So hopefully within the next 1 year, we can get this equation right. We've got World Cup qualifiers coming up in June. We've already embarked on a program to try and get those Zambian players who are playing in Europe and they've got links with the country to be part of the national team. I've already spoken to at least 4 or 5 of them. So they will be called for the camp, which is coming up before we play our first game against Mauritania. So there's quite a lot that we are doing in that respect. On the grassroots, yes, our executive is very committed to investing even more. We signed a cooperation agreement with the Croatian Football Federation. For the first time last year, we sent an under-15 national team to Croatia for a tournament. They came out third. Even this year, they're supposed to go back. We are also looking to have, again, for the first time, an under-13 national team, under-11 national team. So our focus is to build these teams from the regions and then bring everyone to be able to compete at the national level. So we've invested quite a lot. Last week, we were launching the schools program with the Minister of Sport and the Minister of Education. And our focus is to train at least 2 teachers at each school, one as a coach, one as a referee. So we've got about 9,000 schools. We hope that we can train 9,000 coaches, 9,000 referees. These are the same referees we want to upskill to go into our mainstream leagues, and then ensure that we are able to get players from even the schools leagues. So it's quite a robust and ambitious target, but we remain confident that the investment we are putting in grassroots football, for both boys and girls, is eventually going to pay. Because on the other side, our women's team has done very well. They've qualified to the Olympics. They are the only ones, unfortunately. Cameroon couldn't go past Chile just this week. So we are the only ones representing Africa. And we hope that the team can be ready to go and compete in the Olympics in Tokyo in June, July.
No, Mr. President, let's talk about the Chipolopolo. You had stated that they needed to qualify for AFCON, which unfortunately they didn't. But now, what next for them regarding the outcry from the fans on the non-performance of the senior national team?
Well, I think 2 things which are very key. If you look back, again, just to give you some background, when we took office in 2016, we approached the government because at that time there was no substantive national team coach. Of course, we had the coach from Zesco, George Luandamina, who was doubling up as national team coach. So we needed to get a full-time coach. And at the time, the government were the ones sponsoring, or even now, they sponsor the national team coach. So we conducted interviews, identified the coach. Unfortunately, we were told at the time that there was no money. And at that point, we had already engaged Mr. Wetson Nyirenda as an assistant coach to the coach who we were going to get. And as it happened, Mr. Nyirenda was then elevated by default to be the senior national team coach. He also did his part. But unfortunately, in 2016, we were hoping that, in 2018, we were hoping that we would send him for further training and then see how we could upskill his skills. This is how we got Mr. Sven on a short-term contract to qualify the team to the 2019 Africa Cup. Unfortunately, that didn't go well. And then when we were starting the qualifiers for the just past 2021 in 2018, we approached the government again, and we were hoping that we would get the coach in good time. Unfortunately, that process delayed. We started the qualifiers in November 2018 with the local coaches. We went to Algeria and lost 5-0. We came back a couple of days later, lost 2-1 to Zimbabwe at home. Then by the time we were getting the coach, Mitchell, last year, we were already sitting on 0 points from 2 games. We had back-to-back games with Botswana. We won at home and lost away. And then the last 2 games we drew with Algeria, which was a must-win, then went to Zimbabwe and won. But of course, I think what is comforting for now is that we've now got a coach in place who we've given a long-term contract, and we hope that you'll be able to get the right players in and start the World Cup 2022 qualifiers on a strong footing. We can still go back and make amends and qualify to the 2023 Africa Cup, which will also start almost after the World Cup qualifiers. So I think now we are reasonably and well organized to prepare for these competitions.
Out of AFCON, let's talk about World Cup. What plans do you have let's talk about World Cup now that Chipolopolo are out of AFCON. What plans do you have for them to ensure they qualify for this tournament that starts in June, after 56 years of independence without qualifying for the World Cup?
Yes, I think you need to understand that, yes, World Cup has eluded us since independence. Even Africa Cup itself, we've been in the finals 3 times and only won it once in 56 years. And by the way, if you look at the statistics for Africa Cup, we've only had 14 teams who've won it. And out of those 14, 7 have won it more than once, and the other 7 have only won it once. And if you look at the World Cup, it's the same trend. You've got countries like Togo who've been to the World Cup, Angola have been, and it continues to elude us. But at the point where we are today, we know we are in a strong group. We've got Tunisia, Mauritania, Guinea, and ourselves. Nothing is impossible with the right preparations, with the right attitude from the players. And as I indicated, we've even cast our net wider by tapping into those players who are in Europe, who've got links with Zambia. So we hope that we will do reasonably well in this set of qualifiers with the right preparation, right attitude. We should be able to get somewhere.
Now, one thing that you stated when you were re-elected to the office, you said you are going to work together, bring people together, and not be divided, which I think most of the Zambian fans are still questioning according to their comments. How are you trying to bring togetherness in the world of football? And also quite a number of football fans are asking if you've made any effort to contact Kalu Bwalia, whom they think can be a great help to qualify for major tournaments.
Well, first of all, you need to understand that football remains a rule-based game. If you don't follow the rules, unfortunately, there's not much people can do. You can accuse us of, I've even been accused that I single-handedly brought in a clause for integrity tests, but those who are in football will agree that we had absolutely nothing to do with it. Those are provisions which are dealt with at the FIFA level, and us as members of FIFA, we just have to adapt. So unfortunately, modern governance of football requires that there should be these issues of integrity tests. I'm sure you know it's nothing new. Even our immediate past CAF president was sanctioned by FIFA. They couldn't stand in the last elections. Even the acting president of CAF prior to the elections also failed an integrity test. Now, the unfortunate situation in our country is that our former president equally got sanctioned by FIFA and failed the integrity test. But of course, to those who don't understand what this means, it's a case of you are targeting him as an individual. But where we stand, where we sit, I've personally approached him, I've offered him if he could come and work with us as our brand ambassador for the Copa. We've also asked him to be the ambassador for the Zambian national teams, which I think doesn't require the process of going through the integrity test because it's not an executive position. So much as we can get to the table and make those offers, we cannot force matters beyond what we are saying we are ready to do. As I stated just after the elections in Livingstone, we are more than happy to accommodate everyone as long as it's within the provisions of what the statutes say. We will be going back to the AGM in 4 weeks' time. And we want to make sure that all those areas where there were a lot of concerns around, for instance, the appointment of the arbitration tribunal to be able to hear some of the complaints from the members. I'm quite confident when we go to the AGM, the tribunal will be put in place. Those who've got issues which require the tribunal will have to be addressed through that process. So where we are, I think we are happy to accommodate everyone. But of course, bearing in mind that football is a rule-based game, rules have to be applied consistently. For instance, you've got a provision which talks about the association operating independently with no provision or no recourse to ordinary courts of law. Now, this is where we have a problem because some of our members and former members, they've had to go out and seek justice from the ordinary courts, and yet the court that is recognized on the football side is the Court of Arbitration in Sport, which obviously is an expensive process, but unfortunately, those are the rules. We just have to find a way of ensuring that we are fully compliant.
Okay, sir, but I think you had hinted on this question before, but then let me ask it again. Do you plan to get players from Europe of Zambian descendants willing to play for the Chipolopolo?
Yes, I did allude to that, and I mentioned that the coach obviously identifies which players he thinks he may need, is talk to them. And from our side as an executive, we've also spoken to them to just give them assurance that, look, we are very keen to have them, and whatever we need to do, for instance, ensuring that their paperwork is in order, get them their passports, and that is really where we come in. But ultimately, the coach has to decide which players he thinks he needs to be able to achieve his targets.
Okay, but I have a question here from a Zambian fan who is asking, how do you plan to bring back the glory of the Chipolopolo as fans claim their football standard has really gone down?
Well, I think I did allude to that fact in the sense that, you see, when you're building from the bottom, you won't get the results overnight. I gave you an example. If we are going to compete today,
okay, I think we lost you.
So they are playing at the highest level in Europe. And what we are lacking is that we don't have as many of our players playing in the most competitive leagues in Europe. We don't have a player in EPL, we don't have a player in La Liga, we don't have a player in Bundesliga, we don't have a player in Holland. So our players, our best players are currently in Austria, Russia, Sweden, Belgium, and a bit of the other lower leagues within Europe. So what we need to do is get to a point where we can try and get as many of our players into Europe, and ultimately those can graduate into those competitive leagues. I have no doubt the likes of Patson and Mwepu and Fashion are likely to break into any one of those 5 top leagues. So once that happens, what next? There should really be another crop fighting to break into those. So this has to be a continuous process. And I think this is what an average soccer fan will not see. They can talk about the top end, but like I said, we are investing in the junior teams. We've got at least 6 to 8 players in the under 17 who are likely to go into a gap where eventually they will get to the senior national team.
But then you also promised more cup. You have organized more cup competitions. So how many have you organized so far, and how many to go?
Well, I think you need to understand that we operate within a very difficult economic environment. So promising cups is one thing. Getting the sponsors is another thing. Because for people to sponsor football, they should have the economic means to do it. But we've not sat down and given up on that. What we've also done ourselves as an executive is to introduce FAS Cups in all the 10 provinces. And because we've decentralized our operations, we've now got FAS in all the 10 provinces. What we've now tasked the provincial executives is that they have an opportunity to grow those 10 cups by attracting the local business partners. You can have the naming rights. You can do all sorts of marketing around those cups. So as far as we've introduced 10 cups, we are putting in 100,000 kwacha in each province for each cup. We hope that the provincial executives can grow those cups so that ultimately we don't have just one national cup. We've got the 10 provincial still need to come in. It seems to have hit a snag. We are even fortunate, and thanks to MTN, that they were able to sign up and continue supporting our Super League with a new sponsorship package, even though others have condemned it, that in dollar terms. But look, the truth of the matter is everyone is struggling. MTN had the option to walk away. They didn't, and they've given us something which is still good enough. The same teams in the Super League are going to get 100% increase, even though we haven't had that value increasing, but the value to the membership is still going up. So it's a question of how one is analyzing, because sometimes you analyze taking one view, but you also have to have an objective and collective view of issues.
Let's talk about the MTN sponsorship. First, and MTN renewed their partnership for the next 3 years, and the league has been renamed to MTN Super League. Maybe if you could just break it down for those who did not understand it and its terms and conditions of this deal.
Well, basically what MTN has done is what they should have done in the past, because they are the league sponsor. So they've got the naming rights. So from now going forward, it's now called the MTN Super League because they are the headline sponsor for the league. And I think we will see more activity on the part of MTN outside just the banners. I think at the launch, we saw the attempt. I think there will be more activities in terms of on match day. Hopefully, when the soccer fans also come in, we will see more activities. But being a telecom company, I think there's a number of applications they are looking at running competitions using their platform so that they create that awareness with the public. But we still give a lot of credit to MTN that they've been able to recommit to this sponsorship, even under very difficult conditions. As you know, with COVID, I think FIFA has done well by supporting us with the COVID funds, but outside that, football is likely to collapse if we continue without having the soccer funds. The clubs themselves depend on the soccer funds for get takings. Now, if you don't have soccer funds, it becomes very difficult. It's almost like you're just hardly surviving.
Okay, apologies for taking much of your time.
So the MTN deal is 14 million every year. That's why it's 43.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, it's a 3-year contract. Yeah, the MTN deal is 43 million kwacha over 3 years. It's basically 14 million every year to give us the 43 million. But of course, within the package, we've still got opportunities for other sponsors to come in without taking away the naming rights. So we hope that we may build on those opportunities. We still have other areas like hospitality, even the national team. We've got opportunities for other corporates to come in. So the door is not closed.
Okay, sir. As we wind up, there is a very interesting question from a Zambian fan here who is asking, why not call the league both the MTN Premiership and Super League, just as the South African league is also PSL and DSTV Premiership?
Sorry, come again. I missed that question.
I asked, there is a very interesting question from a Zambian fan who is asking why not call the league both the MTN Premiership and the Super League, just as the South African league is also the PSL and the DSTV Premiership.
Well, I think, like I said, MTN, as long as you've got MTN there, whether you want to call it Super or Premier, it's neither here nor there. That's the name they're comfortable with. It's a brand issue. So you can't try and force it because in South Africa, it's being done differently. That is why the league below that is also called the Eden National Division 1 League, because it's sponsored by Eden University. So all these leagues have sponsors, and I think this is why I touched on the fact that we've started the Women's Super League. We hope that we can get a sponsor and have it on TV, so that ultimately it's also got its own sponsorship. It will be identified as a product on its own. So we are creating various products within the FAS profiles.
So that last question, Mr. President, maybe just the Zambian foot fans are wondering, is there any plans of fans getting back to the stadium?
Yes, we are actively talking to the Ministry of Health. Because if you recall, even the last national team game against Algeria, we did request CAF to allow us 5,000 spectators. But unfortunately, they looked at what the government had done, because the government put a ban on soccer fans. So we hope that as we get to the World Cup qualifiers in June, government will have opened up and allowed even just a minimal number of spectators into the stadium, because it's very important for both clubs as well as national team. So we really need to get some soccer fans back into the stands, because we need them as long as we observe the requirements of the health protocols. We think that it's something that can be done. In any case, we've done this before, but unfortunately, when the numbers were going up, the government, through the Ministry of Health, decided that no spectators would be allowed. But I think things are changing a little bit, and we hope for the best. We are forever in contact with the Minister of Sport and Minister of Health to see how we can get the soccer fans in. So you can assure them that we are working tirelessly around the clock to get them into the stadium.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. But just before I close the show, maybe your last words to the Zambian fans, and maybe what your plans for the future, the Zambian football.
Well, I think our fans need to obviously exercise patience, which they will tell you they don't have, and it's well understood. We hope that we can repay them for the heartache we've caused by not qualifying 3 times to the Africa Cup, by making it to the World Cup. But also, what we need to understand and also appreciate is that the same zeal the soccer fans have when they go online to condemn everything we are doing. We hope that that can be translated into financial support to the association, because we need them as much as we need the players. The truth of the matter is we are competing in a global environment. The winning allowances for these players have to be competitive, especially for those who are playing in Europe. We are also investing quite a bit as an association. Currently, the coach, the government is paying $10,000. The association is paying $15,000. So as an association, we've really got challenges of a financial nature. And we believe that the soccer fans will have a role to play by coming in to support their national team. We, for instance, are looking to raise $10 million through a Chipolopolo bond. And it's through that initiative that we can see the soccer fans participating in a way. It's quite interesting that they have the biggest voice, but when it comes to our elections, it's only the members who vote. So we need to create a platform through this process where their voice can also be heard. And you can only come to the party if you've invested in it. So let them start by investing in their national team, and they will have a final say whether you should fire the coach, whether the president should be fired. But it should not be exclusive to the members, but we need to accommodate all the stakeholders, including the soccer fans. My appeal to them is it's their national team. If they don't deliver, yes, can we all find solutions collectively? One of the things we did before the team went to Chan, there was an outcry on the team selection. We allowed the coach to have his team, and the fans were allowed to select their own team. And arising from that process, we had 3 players moving from the team selected by the fans to the one going to the tournament. So for that, we again appreciate their never-ending support. So we need to be engaging formally rather than being on social media. If anyone has got brilliant ideas on how best we can improve the running of football, we are very open, we are happy. Even commercial deals, we are very open. Those who've got brilliant ideas, nowadays technology has moved. If people feel they can demonstrate value, we are also looking for business partnerships. Those who've got the ideas, we can test the idea. If it works, we are more than happy to accommodate them.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I'm humbled to host you on my show today, and I wish you all the best in your position in the top seat as you manage the Zambian football in a better way.
Thank you so much. You're welcome.
To our fans, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Safari Soccer Show. Follow us on all our social media handles at Safari Soccer. See you next week, same place, same time. Bye.